Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Social Justice Forums. I am Daren Jaime. We thank you for joining us. If anyone's asking the question, what exactly is this show about? Well, we take a look at the inequities that so many people face. We promote civic engagement, promote multiple points of view, and we have an opportunity for you to meet some very special guests. So we encourage you to stay with us because the Social Justice Forums begins right now. And welcome back to the show. BronxConnect is an organization that is actually offering alternative justice, cure violence, and reentry programs to help communities build from within. Now, their advocacy work gives members of the community a vehicle that's actually able to voice their concerns as well as gain knowledge, I should say, in the leadership of New York City. And joining us now, we've got the Director of Development at BronxConnect, Pamela Villa. And we thank you so much, Pamela, for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Daren. I'm excited to be here with you today.
Excited to have you. And when we talk about our young people, so many challenges that are out there, but you're doing a great job, particularly in the area of reentry and alternative justice. We oftentimes see people being sentenced to long, harsh sentences, and we often argue, hey, is there a better way? And I know that some of the work that you do is about that better way.
Yes, so we have a bunch of programs. We started off doing our alternative justice for young people that were getting caught up in the system and needed a community-based alternative. And then over time, we've developed into we have a gamut of programs. We do cure violence to prevent violence in particular communities that see a lot of incidences of violence. And then most recently, we started also an advocacy and organizing department about 2-3 years ago to actually look at what is it going to change to what is it going to take to change some of the laws and practices that are structural, that are really impacting young people. And so how can we start to change the perspective of society so that we're shifting from just punishment and actually looking at what works, right? And what's going to hold people accountable without over punishing Latinx and Black youth, which is currently what is happening, unfortunately.
Yeah. And, that advocacy piece is so important. And, to be able to advocate, strengthen the voice that's out there that's needed and really organizing. Talk to me a little bit more about the work of advocacy because it's very much needed. And I think that there's so many people who can really benefit from this.
I think, for young people, I think young people stand to gain so much from being able to share their opinions and have their opinions and their perspectives heard by lawmakers and by leaders in their community. But unfortunately, there isn't that's not super common, right? In the Bronx, we don't see a lot of young people necessarily at the forefront of advocacy or having a voice in their community. And the truth is that young people have a voice, right? And so what BronxConnect is trying to do is say, hey, let's establish a political home for young people to get trained in these basic skills about how do I speak to the media? How do I write an op-ed? How do I make these changes in law? And there's actually, I think, something really powerful, especially with organizing young people who have been impacted by the justice system, because they are rarely asked, what would you do to change your community, right? What could be done to have your experience be better? And so I think giving them that opportunity and giving them a platform to really speak up and have their worldview more reflected in our society is really powerful. And young people are the future. So it's super exciting to be in that position, to have those relationships with young people and families, to be in a position to have them get these trainings and start becoming more involved in shaping, the laws and the practices that really impact their community, their schools, their families.
Yeah. And Pamela, talk to me because, in many ways, what you're doing is you're giving them a realm of exposure, right? And that they have the opportunity to be exposed. And exposure can be the major difference. I think that when we talk about community, there's this saying that without, a vision, people perish. But the reality is without exposure, that's really what it is. You really put kids at a detriment. And so talk to me about the exposure that you feel that occurs through this program.
Yeah, so like I said, the young people in our program, most of them have been impacted by the justice system, but really, even if they haven't been impacted by the justice system, they are impacted by their environment. And their environment is in many ways disproportionately not beneficial to them. When you compare, a kid from the Bronx to someone that grows up in the Upper West Side or another part of the city. And what that comes with is also a lack of opportunity around advocacy and influencing. And so we see that young people, when they're given the right tools, they can actually not only create incredible change for themselves, but start recruiting their peers as well. So we work with a lot of not just youth, but also young adults who've kind of been around the block and have maybe spent some time, right, on Rikers, and now want to be able to change the community for their siblings and for the younger people that they interact with. And so it's really cool to see those young people, right, who have had very similar experiences to the young people of today, inspiring and working with the younger ones and helping them figure out how they can fit into the legislative landscape, and really start changing the future for their communities.
When we talk about some of the things that are going on in our communities, one of the topics of discussion is that of Rikers Island, and it's a huge point of contention across the borough. Give me your thoughts on Rikers Island and the work that you're doing there in terms of dealing with the Close Rikers Island campaign.
Yes, so I know Close Rikers is very, very contentious. And our view has always been that Rikers Island is a decrepit institution. It's a decrepit building. I don't know if you've ever been on Rikers Island, but I have, and it is just deplorable. The conditions, like even the temperature isn't right. And so that kind of environment is not conducive to any positive things, whether that's rehabilitation or, helping people better their lives so that when they come out of Rikers, they don't go back and recommit crimes in their communities. And not only that, but people often forget most people on Rikers are actually waiting for their day in court. They are not even convicted. And so we believe that a community-based model would be better, where people people who are in jail in New York City have better access to lawyers, to social services, and to the support systems that they need, so that when they get out eventually, because they will, and come back to their communities, the entire community will be better off because those connections will have been made while they're inside. And so we really need New York to move in a direction that is more humane, that makes more sense. That's actually a smarter way to spend our taxpayer dollars, where we don't just house people away on this island that's super difficult to get to if you're from the Bronx, that you have to take multiple buses to, and that lawyers don't even want to go to because it's so far away and remote. And it's just kind of a waste of time and a loss of resources for everyone involved. So for that reason, we really hope that we can have Mayor Adams see where there's so much potential, and there's something amazing that can happen if we just put into action the plans that have already been set forth, because there is a way to get there. We just need to keep moving forward.
Yeah. And when we talk about moving forward, obviously that's the plan. We want to move things forward. We want to move out of this place where really, we talk about Rikers Island. I go back to so many people who put their voice and said, listen, if there's a facility that's needed, it can be found in a better place. It's decrepit, it's old. We need to make things better. I look at Rikers Island, I think about, wow, the people who come out of Rikers Island sometimes. And, there's a physical component about being in Rikers Island that I've talked to some people who've been in, who say, listen, when I come back out from there, it feels like I've been, in the ghetto, coming from the ghetto. And I almost feel like there's nowhere left to go, which talks about recidivism, right? How do we deal with the topic of recidivism? What can we do in terms of trying to help those who are coming out of Rikers and other populations to avoid this real pitfall?
So one of the things that we are excited about is, as of 2 years ago, I believe we officially became one of the main contractors around providing community-based transitional services. So we start working with folks on Rikers before they even get discharged. And that allows us to start building those ties early. So when they come out, they're ready with Metro cards. But most importantly, with that existing touch point where they know that someone's going to be looking out for them and helping them progress towards getting that job or getting family counseling to reunite with their family, or whatever issue that they're facing. Everyone has issues in their lives. And even it's funny because sometimes I feel like with the justice system, it's so easy to be like, oh well, they made a mistake. Sorry about that. But we make mistakes all the time. Everyone makes mistakes. And so because the Bronx is so over policed and over criminalized, the justice system really is not a level playing field. And so really for me, it's like the way I see these reintegration programs is like, okay, sure, some people might call them second chance, but the way I see it is like some of these people, that's their first chance really at having that, a support or a mechanism to really start making changes in their lives.
So when we talk about making changes, what are some of the things that we can do to help those healthy changes actually occur in the lives of people? Because sometimes we don't know. A lot of times when you have somebody that's coming out of incarceration, there are needs and there are things. But to the average person who's never been in incarceration or dealt with the criminal justice system, they can be oblivious to really knowing. So what are some of the things that we could need for this smoother transition back to mainstream society?
So I think what it really takes is, getting to know the exact challenges and the history that each individual has. And, that's something that can look different for a lot of people, but obviously the common denominators that we often see are mental health support, right? And helping people reconnect with their families. As we know, having a social life and having community ties can be good and beneficial for a variety of reasons, including health, right? People who have more of a vibrant social community are more likely to be healthier. And so that is one of the major focus areas for us, is making sure that they feel like they are getting re-engaged in society, in addition to helping them meet basic needs, which obviously we see housing issues a lot. And obviously that issue is going to be worsening, unfortunately. But there are a lot of resources and a lot of awesome nonprofits doing great work with helping connect, people who are reintegrating with housing and mental health support.
So, for people who may not be so familiar about the work that you do, you said you have a variety of different programs, and I know we talked about a couple of them, but I want to just give you a couple of moments just to highlight some of the other programs that maybe our public may not be so familiar with that you want us to know about.
Sure. Where do I even start? So the awesome thing about BronxConnect is that since we've been around for like 20 years, we have been able to slowly add on programs. And now we serve the whole spectrum, from prevention, working with middle schools and high schools, with students that may be struggling a little bit or are having behavioral issues, to intervention. So once young people are being charged with felonies or misdemeanors, we have a program for those young people as well, whether it's through the family courts or the criminal courts. And then we also have the reintegration piece. But importantly, with the intervention part, one of the areas that we believe has really helped and strengthened our program is the Cure Violence model, which basically looks at violence and crime as a public health issue and helps young people by connecting them to mentors in the community, by credible messengers that can guide them and help them transition away perhaps from a street life or a gang or involvement in a gang to doing other positive things that are going to be good for the community. And that program is incredible because it really shows you what's possible when we think about how we're investing our money at the city level, and how much you can, and it's not going to be an overnight fix, right? Because some people are like, well, it's not working, look at all the crime. But unfortunately, things take time after decades of neglect and decades of a lack of housing and all of these structural gaps. It's going to take a while to start seeing improvements. I will say we have seen, in the past, reduction in gun violence in our specific catchment areas. So that's been wonderful. But obviously with COVID, there's again, a lot of challenges. And I want people to focus on the progress and understand that success is not linear.
And when we talk about success, the program itself, look back at some of the things that you've done. Give us a little bit of an idea as to the impact that you feel the program has made in the lives of people.
I think one of the biggest adjustments we made I think it was 2017, is when we interviewed young people. They said, we need jobs. We were basically focusing very heavily on education and helping them bring up their reading levels. But a lot of the kids that come into our program are at a fifth grade reading level. And so there's only so much you can improve in 6 to 12 months. And young people need to work. They need the financial means to buy clothing and food. And a lot of times their family isn't able to provide all those things. So we said, let's start investing heavily into getting people get construction licenses, even driver's licenses, which are needed for some jobs, and help them get employment skills and soft skills and start doing job fairs. And I think that has been very impactful for young people, because they not only get that financial kind of incentive to, you have to give people something. If you're going to say you need to leave the gang, you got to give them something. And obviously, even if it's not comparable in terms of how much money they're making, they're getting that mentorship and they're getting that relationship that is so important. And most of our staff is, whether they're personally impacted by violence or they have been in the justice system. We are predominantly Latinx and Black, and our leadership reflects the community as well. So I think it's for me, like, one of the most important aspects is that I feel like that's our secret sauce.
And we talk about secret sauce. Obviously, you got a lot of it because you had a lot of success here. We talk about incarceration. We talk about recidivism. How do you view it right now? Do you feel like things are getting better on the battlefield?
I do. And I say that because, while I'm not on the ground, I wish I could be. I used to work in one of our programs directly, and then I slowly moved more towards development and grant writing. But I think you have to pay attention to the real stories that we hear every day of kids that are making improvements and families that are getting better. Obviously, that's not gonna happen across the board, but I think sometimes it's good to just zoom out and look at the bigger picture and look at the fact that New York City has still managed to decarcerate. And pre-COVID, we were, one of the safest cities. We were doing really well. And so it's easy to equate some of these drawbacks with recent policies or laws. But if you really look, the pandemic changed all cities, permanently forever. And so I think that we need to look at this, at the stories of these people, and also recognize that recidivism is not helped when people are incarcerated. Like, incarceration leads to recidivism. Just we know that for a fact. One of the really great stats that we have is that 98% of the young people who completed our felony program in the community were able to avoid another felony conviction for 3 years after they completed the program. So that is the kind of thing that can happen when you invest, and it's much less expensive than incarcerating someone. I think in New York, our program costs about $13,000 a year per young person. It's an intensive program. As you know, I think Rikers right now is at like $250,000 or more a year for a bed. So there's a lot of bright spots.
Mm-hmm. We got to leave it there. And I want to thank you so much for the work that you're doing and being a guest here with us on the show. A lot to talk about. And hopefully, as we talk about recidivism and incarceration, we can reduce those rates. But organizations such as yourself truly making a difference in making that happen, that we can reduce those rates and really see some positive outcomes for our young people. So thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much, Daren. Really appreciate it.
All right. I want to thank you too. Well, listen. Want you to stay with us. We've got more show coming up. We're going to just take a quick break, but we got more. I should say, we got more right after this.
Even though we didn't grow up together, he's my favorite brother.
Hey, sis.
I'm the baby of the family, and he's the gentle giant.
What you know about Port Georgia?
Man, please, that's a classic.
You know when they say people are a rare breed? Yeah, he's that.
I'm sorry, I'll be back in a few hours.
Don't worry, Shug. You know I'm for you.
I know.
Go get the football.
That was my favorite memory. He was always for ya. This is a true story of me, Bridget Floyd, And this guy, George Perry Floyd Jr., my big brother.
Every day, thousands of kids start vaping. And I can't let this happen to my kid. Of course, it's awkward to talk to your kids about the dangers of vaping. Hey, bestie, how sketch is vaping? It's hard to get their attention. Ready? Go. Yes, look at that. You didn't even turn yours over. So if you want to talk to your kids about the dangers of vaping, you have to get it trending. Right, Backpack Kid?
Let's do it.
First, invite your kid to do the vape talk. Let's try this. All right.
Why is he here?
Yeah, I gotta get it trending, honey.
Come on.
To the left. To the right. Let's go.
Oh, honey, can we talk?
Yeah, what's up?
I see a lot of your friends vaping.
Visit talkaboutvaping.org for tips on when and how to have the vape talk.
I'm an ex-drug dealer, and I'll be your sub today. Can you see anything different as a pill?
No.
You don't know?
Fentanyl is being mixed into everything now. There's only one thing that will save somebody's life. That is naloxone nasal spray.
Fentanyl, it's cheap, it's potent, and it's profitable.
Why would drug dealers put a lethal dose of fentanyl in drugs if they know it's so harmful?
Really just all about the money.
I just didn't realize that one pill could change your whole life.
More kids should know.
And welcome back to the show. The Osborne Association serves families as well as communities and individuals that have been impacted by the criminal legal system. They challenge systems that are rooted in racism, as well as retribution, and also fight for policies and practices to promote true safety, justice, and liberation. We're pleased to have joining with us right now the Vice President of Children, Youth, and Family Services at the Osborne Association. We've got Keisha Boatswain with us. And Keisha, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
And as we talk about the work that you do, obviously very entrenched in dealing with the criminal legal system, criminal justice system, or however you want to pair the two. But for somebody who may not be so familiar about your organization, the work that you do, give us a little insight into the Osborne Association.
Sure, absolutely. So Osborne was founded about 90 years ago by prison reformer Thomas Mott Osborne. And like you mentioned, we work to service individuals, families, communities, those who are currently incarcerated, those who are formerly incarcerated, and their loved ones who have been impacted by the criminal legal system. And we do that through a number of ways, through advocacy, providing support, education, counseling, training, employment readiness, a number of avenues. We do that in partnership with our internal staff at Osborne and the community based on a series of goals. We want to ensure that communities are strong, healthy, resilient, that folks are able to lead meaningful lives. And we approach everything that we do from a position where people are able to heal from the harm and repair the damage in their lives.
And when we talk about healing, it's very important, that healing process that families should be able to, and individuals should be able to occur. I know that you really work hard with the family on that. And so I know one of the things you have is Family Works. And can you share a little bit about Family Works?
Oh, certainly. So Family Works is actually one of my programs, and we work with people who are incarcerated, and we offer them a series of curriculums on parenting, fatherhood. And then there's a third component to that where we bring parenting partners into the prison to work with their loved ones through a course called Connected Couples. In addition to that, the program is quite comprehensive. So we run a number of family visitation sites. They're called family centers, where we engage loved ones who come into the prisons during visits to engage with their parents. We have structured toys and games and structured play in place to support families during those visits.
And when you look at the work that you're doing, sometimes I think that you have better insight than maybe we do on the outside looking. And what are some of the challenges that you're finding among some of the clients that you're serving these days?
So I could start off, one big thing is that families have been impacted by the separation, right? So there is definitely that sense of loss, and we provide with our video visiting program, specifically in our Family Works program, we try to offer that connection and supported visits through a licensed social worker who helps fill the gaps. When you talk about some of our other programs that support older adults, there's always that financial need. Our participants are usually unstable in their housing and their financial resources. So there's so many issues that present. Many have experienced trauma and have mental health challenges that we try to bridge the gap for them as well with our trauma-related services. So we're looking to build and bring stability to their life.
Yeah. And so I know another component that you have is also video visiting and also visiting support. And that's very much necessary these days. Talk to me about the effectiveness of video visiting and what that actually means on the life of both sides.
Right. So video visiting ensures that children and families are connected to their incarcerated loved ones. Our video visiting program runs through 11 prisons throughout the state. And what we have are community visitation sites in Brooklyn, the Bronx, Buffalo, Queens, and Manhattan, where families are able to come in with the support of a social worker to engage in a televisit with their incarcerated loved ones. So we do supported services that include engaging with the incarcerated person, helping them work through that visit, working with the family member in the community, prepping them as to what to expect, ways to reconnect, and how to have a smooth visit.
And when that goes on, talk to us about the importance of that because some people say, well, why is that so important? But there is a measure of importance in this.
Oh, absolutely. So this video visiting creates an opportunity for children to stay connected to their parents, right? If you have a parent who is away, incarcerated, this may be the only opportunity for some of them to maintain that relationship, that face-to-face connection, and continue to develop that bond and maintain a close parent-child relationship. Many of these prisons are located hours away from the city, and a video visit is a very good option. There's no cost. We provide services to the families who need transportation to come in, as opposed to a family traveling 7 or 8 hours to a prison upstate. It really helps to continue to strengthen that relationship between parent and child. They can talk about anything during their visit and keep those bonds strong. It builds support and resiliency in the young child to be able to maintain that relationship with the parent.
Yeah. And talk about incarcerated women because there's several challenges that incarcerated women have, and maybe we're not so familiar with. But I know that you do some work in that particular area of helping incarcerated women to be able to deal with both the sentencing and also bridging the gap between themselves, family, as well as community.
Absolutely. We run a program called Family Ties, which is a supportive program for women and their children. Most of our women who are incarcerated at Albion Correctional Facility. We provide them with a parenting course that they go through. There's a big graduation to celebrate them. Throughout the year, we create opportunities for their children and the caregivers of those children to travel up to Albion. We get on a plane, we take them up there, we stay overnight, and we have a big visit at the facility for the parent and child. It is really wonderful to see these mothers interacting with their children in just a calm environment. There's activities for them, and it's really sweet. The children get to see their mothers participate in the graduation for their parenting course. And throughout the year, they have opportunities to engage not only by video visits. The young people are also engaged in recreational activities where they are part of our rec program and our programs for children of incarcerated parents in Brooklyn. It's particularly our Yes Youth Experience Success and our YAC program out of Brooklyn. But about 2 to 3 times a year, we do travel to Buffalo to Albion Prison for these young people to engage with their mothers in a face-to-face visit.
You had mentioned about the Yes program, and I know that's a program that deals with 13 to 15-year-olds. So could you share with our viewing audience a little bit more about that program and the positive impact it's having?
Oh, absolutely. So, Yes is our Youth Experience Success Program. We deal with children whose parents are incarcerated, and these young people are participating in a strong youth development curriculum. They engage with us twice a week on Mondays and Thursdays in different activities, and once a month in an experiential recreational activity. The work that they do is so comprehensive, so much so that these participants in our Yes program, if they maintain an 85 or above average while they're engaged in their high school matriculation, they receive scholarships to the college and university of their choice. So it really is a wonderful opportunity to see these young people receive the support, the counseling, and the training that they need to become successful contributing adults.
You know, you talk about intervening in a person's life at an early age, 13 to 15, and that's pretty important, right? Because that's a time of maturity and decision making and things like that. What are you seeing by way of the impact of that particular program in the lives of your young people?
Oh, I see some of these kids and experience their growth. You know, they may have been withdrawn or shy. Once they have come through the program, they really are confident and aware of self, and they become advocates, and they place legislation in front of our lawmakers, and they really are advocates and triumphs for the cause. They're really vested. As I mentioned, I've seen some of them go off to college and university. I've personally visited with these children, one in particular at Binghamton State last year. So they are thriving and they're doing quite well. They come back, they share, and they're with us for a number of years. So it really is wonderful to see their progression and the growth in their confidence.
So for you, as you look throughout the course of this year, a lot going on the table, a lot of programs that you're dealing with. Talk to us about the plans for this year and how you're looking to make impact.
Well, we look to continue making our impact in our Children, Youth, and Family Services program through our Yes and YAC programming. We want to be able to engage our young people who have been impacted by the criminal legal system and a parent's incarceration. We want to make sure that they are supported and receive all of the services that they need as it relates to dealing with their trauma and addressing whatever harm. Also want to make sure that they have the skill sets and the tools needed to be successful citizens as they grow.
And I know we haven't had a chance to really talk about this, but I think it's important that we also talk about, the impact of gun violence in our community, because that's something that's so paramount. And when we talk about guns, we find them many times in the hands of young people, and either the hands or either being the victim. But you do have something that deals with gun accountability, and I wanted you to have an opportunity to tell us a little bit about that too.
Oh, absolutely. So shifting focus from our younger children, we do offer an array of programs out of our Bronx office for young adults. These are young people themselves who have been impacted by the criminal legal system. You are speaking about our BOGAP program, which is our Bronx Osborne Gun Accountability and Prevention Program. In partnership with the Bronx County DA's office, about 4 years ago, we started the planning to build this program out. It is an evidence-based program. It's an alternative to incarceration program that serves young people ages 18 to 30 who have been indicted with an felony gun possession charge in Bronx County. So these young people who are selected for the program come to us for the course of a year, and they are engaged in an intensive program, upwards of 20 hours a week, where they are engaged in cognitive behavior therapy, dialectic behavior therapy, which addresses their changes in thoughts to their thought process, changes in their behavior. They go through an evidence-based program called Alternative to Violence, where it is a model, it's non-confrontational, where they are trained to address conflict. They participate in credible messenger mentoring with a credible messenger who is somebody like them, who has a lived history from some of the same communities that they were from, to help them through this change process. These young people work with us daily for up to 20 hours a week. They go through job readiness training. They go through hard skills training. We have some young men who have gone on to become certified CDL truck drivers or certified licensed barbers. So based on what their desire is, we help them through these goals. Once they successfully complete the program now, their felony charge is vacated to a misdemeanor, and they're able to pick up the pieces and move on as successful citizens. We've heard and received so much feedback from our participants about how this program has been a game changer for them. They've developed bonds with their peers. They have a brotherhood that they've never experienced. We've seen young men who had never held relationships with their fathers actively seek out to repair these relationships, as they knew that they were becoming fathers themselves. They really put in the work into this program, and it's just, I'm proud of it. It's such a delight to see the transformation that takes place. We conducted a couple of focus groups over the course of the year, and the feedback that we received was tremendous. To hear these young men speak about how this program has really changed their lives in terms of their personal accountability, how they've made changes, so much to the tune of, these are some young men who are involved in the street where their friends, their peers for years cannot believe the change. So they bring them into program to see what's actually taking place in some of the rooms.
So for people who want to find out more information about the work that you're doing and stay connected, how do they go about doing that?
Oh, absolutely. They could always visit our website for additional information at osborneny.org. And all of our programs will be documented there.
Well, Keisha, Boatswain, I want to thank you so much for being with us. A lot of great information about the Osborne work. And listen, continue to keep doing what you're doing, and we're glad that we can have you here on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
All righty, Keisha Boatswain, our guest here on the Social Justice Forum. Listen, don't go anywhere. We're taking a quick break. We'll continue with more coming up right after this.
I don't know why you're so sad. You've got a roof over your head.
Bro, you gotta stop with that depression stuff. That's a white people thing.
Escúchame, en esta casa los hombres no lloran.
You all right?
It just feels like it's coming from everywhere.
Do you want to talk about it?
Thanks for hearing me out, bro. Appreciate it.
You can talk to me if you're feeling sad. Whenever you need to talk, I'm here, okay?
I'll see y'all.
After a basketball game, a black teenage boy, Brandon, reads his text in his family group chat. Auntie Flo, congrats on the big win. Mom, that's my baby. Brandon replies, thanks y'all. In a park, his sister Maya texts, where are we celebrating? Dad replies, home. Mom texts, I got dinner going. Auntie Flo replies, ooh, I can't wait. Then receives a FEMA flood watch text alert. She texts the family, anyone see that weather alert? We need a plan to stay safe, especially after last year. Ready has a list of resources at ready.gov/plan. In his workshop, Dad sends a photo of emergency supplies and texts, looks like we need flashlights and batteries. Leaving a store with a shopping bag, Brandon replies, I got us covered. Mom texts, I'll check in with Grandma and Papa. Maya texts, thanks Auntie. Feeling good about this plan.
I got some batteries and 2 flashlights.
What's up, champ? Feel like you get taller every time I see you. Congratulations, Brandon. Game back and game.
Thank you so much.
Fostering a pet for a friend or neighbor can keep families together. Learn more at petsandpeopletogether.org.
Most hiring algorithms would scream me out.
Some bosses couldn't see me as a leader.
I've run this place for 20 years, but I still need to prove that I'm more than what you see on paper.
I've been running code as long as I've been able to reach a keyboard.
This is what I do. It's second nature for me, coordinating 100 details at once.
It's the way my mind works. I have a very mechanical brain.
I sold them on my skills.
You gotta be so good they can't ignore you.
My magic is
analytics and empathy. That's how I'm getting clients. You have to have the confidence in yourself to show up and defy the odds.
I'm more than who I am on paper.
I never got a college degree. And today, I'm the CEO of my own company. People want to tell me I'm one in a million, when actually I'm one of millions. Stars are all around us. It's time for them to shine.
And welcome back to the show. Our next guest is an innovative leader that's actually serving the intersection of education, as well as authentic impact, as well as social justice. She currently is serving in many roles, strategically focused on cultivating excellent education and also equipping for justice and community empowerment. She released a book that's helping people notice the violent connotations in their language. And joining us to share a little bit more, we've got the author of the Nonviolent Vernacular, Dr. Shenequa Pierre. And Dr. Shenequa, good to have you.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me. Really excited to be here with you all this afternoon.
Well, thank you. And I think when we talk about the work that you do, it's going to be pretty interesting for some of our viewers. Give me a little bit about the nonviolent vernacular from your perspective.
Sure. And so in looking at society, we have normalized violence in our language. It's been so receptive to our daily conversations. And so a prime example, I'm gonna kill 2 birds with 1 stone, right? Why we have to kill the birds? Potentially it could be an opportunity to feed 2 birds with 1 scone. And it's like a flip on positivity, which triggers our mindset to be able to think in a way where we are positively narrating situations and conversations or circumstances. Studies have shown that like people that have participated or have been in domestic violent situations or have had instances in their life where they've been exposed to verbal trauma or verbal abuse are triggered by a lot of the things that we say in our everyday language. And so my goal was just to bring awareness to our words, not trying to change the world in one day, but definitely trying to change our perception and how we see things with one book, with the hope of it being that we begin to pay attention to how we become desensitized, but then learn an alternative way in speaking that promotes positivity.
But at the same time, when we think about positivity, it's almost like the secondary. Our minds, our ideas sometimes are always conditioned to go negative. We'll see the glass half empty as opposed to being half full. Why is it that we are so attracted, or so negativity becomes our impulse? Because as you talk about, positivity, that's a great thing, but the reality is that's not always our first our first pull.
I would say because it's so much easier to be able to kind of state what's been normalized and what you've been conditioned to. If you look at today's articles, social media, what catches the eye is usually a negative title or something that grasps your attention, whereas positivity or positive narration is something that is a rewiring. And so it's something that I tell my teachers: if you want a student to replicate a certain behavior, you would want to repeat it versus always telling them what they're doing wrong. What about if you tell them what they're consistently doing right? And studies show that once you repeat something, particularly, the probability of it happening more frequently increases. And so if you are consistently pointing out the positive things that's happening, what you're triggering inside of your mind is the ability to adapt to a new perspective or a new way of finding that promotes for positivity.
Dr. Shenequa, I know that you have a book out too, and so I want you to take a little bit of talk about what was the impetus behind the book and why did you decide to write it?
So I in the latter stages of my dissertation, I focused just a lot on language. I'm a linguist by nature, and I am enamored with words. I love words. I love the understanding, the etymology behind what words mean and how when we put them together, how they can yield an impact or an influence. And so also serving as an assistant principal, listening to a lot of the language that students are spewing to each other begin to catch my eye. I noticed that they were less frequent in compliments, but very consistently in slander or banter when it came to how they would describe their friends, how they would describe their relationships or their situations. And so taking just an opportunity to look at the impact associated with it and seeing how I even noticed within my own language that I could not go a couple of sentences without a negative, or I would say a violent connotation. And then I just thought about how was that showing up in my personality? How was I projecting that in conversations? And what did that look like as far as a lasting impact when having conversations with people? And so the book really pushes for this idea of building awareness by practice. And so I believe in theory and application, because that's where the knowledge and the wisdom comes from, right? You have the opportunity to be educated, but now let's talk about the equipping and the empowering piece. And so what the book does is it provides you an opportunity to actually see the violent connotation, but then work your way through as far as how you process, what does it look like, what is the definition, how is it utilized, but then I offer you, which is the equipping piece, an opportunity to say it another way, utilizing positive language, and then encouraging you to reflect on that, because that is also the piece that's missing. Sometimes we provide people with tools, but then we don't give them the opportunity to practice. This book serves as a tool that does that. It provides you with the knowledge so that you are educated. It provides you with tactical tools and transferable skills so that you are equipped. But then it pushes and encourages you to share, which is the empowering piece, where then it's not just you bridging the gap and building awareness, but you are also influencing and impacting others within your circumference or within your sphere of influence.
So for yourself, you have the opportunity to really impact people because you've got faculty, you've got students, you've got families that you have the opportunity to really touch base with. How do you get this? How do you get this to transcend into their lives on a day-to-day practice? Because listen, once you get somebody to adopt that, game changer, right?
Yeah.
But the process is also, you got to break people down in order to get that, because we're so used to going the other direction.
Yeah, I think I've witnessed so many aha moments with just some of the examples that they are consistently using. And so, what I've noticed is that when there is that level of awareness, people then become convicted. And so, it's like, oh, snap, I am, like, for instance, if we're saying, oh, we got a deadline, and I'm like, wow, or bullet points. And I'm just like, okay, what about if we have a due date or if we have task items? And so just bringing that other way to say, I've just noticed and looking at people and they're like, oh my goodness. And then it brings about a level of conviction. I think the work that I am tasked in doing is not necessarily or not only just equipping and educating, but it's about bringing this level of awareness to where when I'm not around, you consistently hear the voice or the idea of, oh, there's another way that I could potentially say that. And I think that that is a muscle that we as people need to begin to practice a little bit more frequently, because it can be a habit that then becomes something that can be monumental when it comes to our speech, when it comes to our language, and then most importantly, when we interact with people, if knowing that if words have the power to help or hinder, or words have the power to bring life or to destroy, how are you utilizing your words? If you notice that 80% of your vernacular is laced with violence, what are you doing? Are you really helping or are you hindering? Are you bringing life or are you killing? And just that statistic alone brings a level of awareness and conviction that really encourages people to do and to say things in another way.
So for yourself, what can give us some tips as to what we can do? Because obviously, there's some things that we can do in our day to day, maybe that can flip this a little bit. So, what are some common things that maybe we can be practicing to really develop a more positive lifestyle, more positive vernacular?
I think one, just becoming comfortable with being aware. And so, what started me in this process is literally listening to some of my conversations and beginning to jot down and chronicle the negative or the violence stanzas or phrases that I'm saying, and then thinking about what's another way to say it, especially if the world that we live in, you see so much violence. And the goal is not to be so desensitized, and the fact that this is normalized is perpetuating such a numb culture. And so for me, I pride myself, or I just think about, if my goal is to be impactful in a positive way, how am I leading that charge? And so it's what I say, and really pointing in on this idea of language as a vehicle, as a tool that can connect or bridge the gap. And so, one, being very aware of what it is that I'm saying. And so, taking time to process what actually comes out of my mouth. And it seems super cliche, but it's like, think before you say. Right. And so if I want to say something, I'm not automatically just spewing verbiage. I am literally thinking about what it is that I'm saying, taking some time to process, and then even incorporating some writing where it's like, before I say this, let me write this out. And if my goal is, again, to bring about awareness where I am speaking in nonviolent vernacular, I am looking at what I'm saying and I'm retracting those things and interchanging them with positive language.
I want to get an opportunity to talk to you about your sharing with women in leadership, and I know that you have the opportunity to speak into the lives of young women leaders as well. So a little bit about that.
Sure. I've had a nonprofit for 12 years. It's entitled GEMS, Girls Empowered and Motivated to Succeed, where we focus on advocacy, awareness, and action. And I've had the luxury of being able to mentor almost 350 young ladies, ranging from the ages of 12 to 21. And I would say in my latter years, industry identity is more so for older women that are in their industries, and they want to be able to kind of cultivate an identity that fosters themselves in ingenuity, intelligence, and innovation. And it's been an honor to be able to even partake in people's lives by one, sharing my narrative and my story, but then utilizing life's failures and experiences to provide transferable skills to build impact and influence with those that I encounter. And so not only just talking and speaking, but mentoring, that is a practice. And so utilizing my life as a blueprint, as an architect, to be able to kind of sculpt out business plans, sculpt out what it means to think through career and action, understanding your identity. I would say the latest conversation I've been having frequently is just how you show up in spaces. And so you hear that frequently, and people just automatically think of image and etiquette. But I'm thinking and talking about how do you show up and take up space. And so what does that look like for you, embodying an environment where you begin to have the environment acquiesce to who you are, to where you show up fully as your true, authentic self and not feel the need to be muzzled or belittled because of your counterparts. As a woman of color, and as a woman of color in leadership, unfortunately, that has been my plight. But I've learned to be able to not just have a seat at the table, but be a table so that others can either pull their seats up, or we can be the legs and feet that continue to execute on whatever vision that we put in place. I think by having that perspective, I'm allowed to use my failures and my mistakes as opportunities for other people to learn new initiatives, new stories, new understandings. And it's been very empowering, and it's liberating to be able to share my stories and not see my failures as a final destination, but one that has been cultivated in the way that can serve as a lesson for others along the journey.
Well, before we go, I want to give the opportunity for you to be able to share with others exactly how you can, they can get connected to you, the work that you're doing, and go from there.
Sure. So you could follow me. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Follow me on Instagram at Dr. Shenequa Pierre. It's the same thing on Facebook, or we can connect via my website. My website is www.shenequapierre.com. The nonprofit that I was referring to is www.girlsmotivated.org. We are looking for new partners and new young ladies, new gems to join. And so if this sounds like a fit for you and you're looking to be able to change your trajectory or even build onto what it is that you're doing, I'd love to connect with you so that we can continue to grow together better.
All right, Dr. Shenequa Pierre, we got to leave it there, but thank you so much. Quite inspiring, and also a different perspective on how to look at things, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All righty. Well, I want to let our viewers know we've come to the end of our show today. We hope that you enjoyed this week's social justice broadcast. Now, listen, if you want, you can catch the recablecast, and then also you can watch it on BronxNet TV or the website, BronxNet.org. We invite you to join us next week, where we continue to elevate the conversation, continue to dialogue, and talk about the things that matter most. That's the inequities that so many people face here in the area of social justice. I'm Daren Jaime. Until next time we meet, we'll bring you some further awareness across the city, across the state, even across the globe on the social justice forums. Take care, everybody, and God bless.